Class 6th ICSE, welcome to the Wisdom 360 live session. Today we will be continuing our chapter number 4, that is digestion in humans or digestive system in humans. In the previous class, we discovered that the process of nutrition or the process of taking in food and utilizing it to form energy, how it occurs in the human body, and all the parts of the alimentary canal, that is the digestive tract, starting from the mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum and anus forms the digestive unit or tract. Today we will be discussing about the food which goes into the mouth. In the previous class, we discussed about the alimentary canal and also the digestive glands. Today we will be studying about the digestion process occurring inside the body. The first organ of the alimentary canal is the mouth. Here the food gets digested and the mouth of the human is the part of the alimentary canal where the digestion begins. The food is ingested through the mouth, which opens into a small chamber called mouth cavity or buccal cavity. Its main function is to receive food and start digestion. In this organ called mouth, we have teeth. The teeth are divided into 4 types. First is the incisors. Second are the canines. Third are the premolars. And fourth are the molars. We have 4 incisors in each jaw, 4 canines, 2 canines in each jaw and 4 in number. Premolars are 4 and molars are 6. So the total is 16 in each jaw. So in total we have 32 teeth overall. Incisors are used for cutting or biting the food. Canines are used for tearing the food. Premolars and molars both are used for crushing and grinding the food. Okay, so the digestion, which starts from the mouth itself, occurs in 2 steps. First step is called the mechanical or physical digestion. This is done by the help of teeth, and 4 different types of teeth help in cutting or biting, tearing, crushing and grinding the food. And the second step, which occurs in the mouth, is called the chemical digestion. In this step, that is chemical digestion, the food which is cut, grind or mixed by the help of teeth is digested by the chemicals released by the associative glands or the digestive gland, like saliva. The salivary gland secretes an enzyme known as salivary amylase. This salivary amylase is also called as ptyalin. Here P is silent, P-T-Y-A-L-I-N. This is called ptyalin. Ptyalin or salivary amylase is the enzyme present in the mouth released by the salivary gland. Okay, so here is the first step of digestion in our human body, and the part of the alimentary canal where this type of digestion occurs is the mouth. The mechanical digestion is completed with the help of teeth, and the second step, that is chemical digestion, occurs by the associative glands enzyme called as ptyalin or salivary amylase. So the first step of digestion occurs for starch. Starch is a kind of complex carbohydrate which gets digested in the mouth itself. And the process of digestion is the breakdown of complex food particle into simpler or absorbable form. Now the food which is converted into bolus. And what is bolus? We have studied in the previous lecture. I am telling you, first step, that is the digestion in the mouth, occurs into two steps, that is first mechanical and second chemical. The food which is crushed or grinded in the mouth goes into the food pipe or esophagus. The food which is chewed and churned. The food which is chewed and churned becomes bolus, and the chewing and churning of food is called mastication. मतलब खाने को चबाना. This is called mastication. The chewing and churning of food is called as mastication. Fine. So this bolus is passed into the food pipe or the esophagus, and then this bolus goes into the stomach. From the mouth into the food pipe, and from the food pipe the food which is chewed and churned becoming bolus goes into the stomach. Here a process, a wave-like motion occurs that is called as peristalsis. Peristalsis is the wave-like motion occurring in the food pipe due to the contraction of muscles. Peristalsis occurs due to the contraction of muscles, which is a wave-like motion occurring in the complete alimentary canal. Food pipe pushes the bolus into the stomach, where the food remains for 2 to 5 hours, and inside the stomach is present hydrochloric acid or HCl. The hydrochloric acid kills the bacteria which may be present in the food. This acid is present in the stomach and it does not harm the stomach because of the presence of mucus. Mucus protects or defends against any kind of invaders, and this mucus which is present inside the lining of the stomach does not allow the hydrochloric acid to affect the stomach. And where the stomach is there, the food which goes into the stomach remaining for 2 to 5 hours is mixed with the gastric juices present and released inside the stomach. The gastric juice is rich in hydrochloric acid and enzymes which are helpful in the digestion of proteins, fats and other nutrients present in the food. Now the food which is present in the stomach goes into the small intestine for further digestion and absorption. In the mouth cavity, the teeth masticate the food and mix with saliva with the help of tongue. So you can write the food which is taken into the mouth cavity is held by the tongue and teeth. These two help in the first, that is physical or mechanical digestion, and second, that is the chemical digestion. The tongue helps the tongue helps the food to mix it with the saliva by swallowing, and the teeth masticate food and mix with this saliva. After the mouth, the common passage called pharynx takes the food to the food pipe or esophagus. Through the esophagus, by the help of peristalsis or the contraction of the muscles, the food is pushed into the J-shaped organ called as stomach. Stomach produces gastric juice which helps the food for digestion of proteins, etc. And this gastric juice makes the food acidic for better absorption and digestion. From the stomach, the food goes to the small intestine, and also the liver and pancreas mix their secretions, that is, pancreas secrete the pancreatic juice and liver produces bile. These two organs, that is liver and pancreas, pour their secretion in the stomach, and the food gets mixed with them properly and goes into the small intestine. And the small intestine has three different parts. That is DJI. It is having three different parts. First is D, then J, and then I. Full form of DJI means duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Duodenum is the first part of the small intestine, where the food mixes with bile, and the bile juice helps in the emulsification of fats and oils. And in this part of the small intestine, bile, trypsin is the enzyme which is produced in the part called duodenum. The trypsin changes the proteins, proteases, and peptones into polypeptides, meaning these are responsible for the breakdown of fat and protein into simple or smaller units. The jejunum is the part of the small intestine where no digestion occurs and there is no enzyme present. It is the small J-shaped part of the small intestine where the food just goes and passes into the third part, that is called ileum. Ileum secretes the intestinal juice. Which completely digests the food, and this is the part where digestion stops. After the digestion or the breakdown of complex substances like nutrients into simpler form, the food is absorbed with the help of small finger-like projections called villi. Villi is present. Villi is singular and villus is villi is plural and villus is singular. This is singular. This is plural. These small finger-like projections which are present inside the small intestine helps in better absorption of food. The food goes into the large intestine and this part of the alimentary canal is again divided into three parts. That is CCR, DJI CCR, and this CCR is first is cecum, colon and rectum. Cecum, colon and rectum are the parts of large intestine. Here the absorption of water occurs in the colon and then the undigested food goes into the part of the large intestine that is called rectum. Rectum holds the undigested material or feces prior to defecation. Feces means the undigested food or the remaining material after the food gets digested. Digestion stops in the small intestine and the food is absorbed by the help of villi and the water gets absorbed in the part of large intestine that is called colon. Cecum, colon and rectum are the part of large intestine where the food gets passed after absorption, and here the energy is formed, that is the step called assimilation. And the feces or the fecal matter which is formed remains in the part of large intestine called rectum. After this, the food goes into the anus. Anus is the part which helps in the egestion of food, that means removal of waste food particles outside the body. Again, mouth cavity helps the digestion into two parts or two steps. One is physical, so you can write one, teeth के हेल्प से फिजिकल या मैकेनिकल डाइजेशन हुआ, टंग की हेल्प से केमिकल डाइजेशन हुआ और माउथ में ही कॉम्प्लेक्स कार्बोहाइड्रेट दैट इज स्टार्च का डाइजेशन हुआ. यहाँ पर प्रेजेंट है टाइलिन नाम का एक एंजाइम जिसे सलाइवरी अमाइलेज भी कहते हैं, एंड द फूड now gets turned into bolus, goes in the common passage for water, food and air that is called pharynx, and then into the food pipe or the esophagus by the process or wave like motion called peristalsis. After this, when the food reaches the stomach, it is the J-shaped organ which produces gastric juice that makes the food acidic, and the acidity of the food is required for the breakdown of protein particles into simpler form. The liver, which is the largest gland inside the body, produces the bile juice, and the pancreas release the pancreatic juice containing enzymes like trypsin, lipase, maltase, etc. that will be taken further. But this is the fact where the path of food inside the alimentary canal is shown. Bile is the largest organ inside the body which releases the bile juice, and bile juice does the work for emulsifying, and the emulsification of fat into smaller units called fatty acids, जिससे कि फैट बना है, fatty acids and glycerol. Emulsification of fat is done by the help of bile juice produced by the liver, and this bile is stored in the organ called as gallbladder. The gallbladder is a sac-like structure or a pouch-like structure which stores the bile when it is produced by the liver. And bile is used for the emulsification. Emulsification means the breakdown of fat into fatty acids and glycerol. Fatty acids and glycerol together make fat. Fats means oil. So this act upon fat and makes it simpler for digestion and also for maintaining the material of body muscle. The food in the stomach, when acted upon by the acidic nature of the stomach due to the presence of hydrochloric acid and the secretion of bile and pancreatic juice, is now termed as the chyme. The chyme goes in the small intestine. Chyme is the food mixed with the enzymes and hydrochloric acid. The food goes into the small intestine, which is divided into three parts. First is duodenum, second jejunum, third ileum. Duodenum, jejunum, ileum forms the small intestine where the bile and enzymes like trypsin, lipase, maltase, etc. help in the protein digestion, and jejunum is the J-shaped part of the small intestine over which intestines overlap. Here no digestion occurs, and in the ileum the intestinal juice that also contains certain enzymes helps in the absorption of food by the presence of finger-like projections called villi. The digested food passes through the thin walls of blood capillaries and enters the bloodstream, and this process which is occurring inside this small intestine is called as absorption. And some food that cannot be digested, therefore it is not absorbed by the blood, moves into the large intestine and forms the feces after the absorption of water and goes into the part called rectum, where the feces or the undigested food remains for certain time unless it is ejected out, and anus is the organ that egests the food or the waste material. Large intestine is responsible for the production of energy by the absorbed food in the form of glucose, and glucose is converted into fat and is stored in the adipose tissues. Emulsification is the process of breaking down of large fat molecules into tiny droplets for enzyme action. These are the simple form of fat, fatty acids and glycerol, and fat means oil has to be broken down into smaller parts that can be acted upon by the enzymes present in the body. The duodenum is the anterior or the first part of the small intestine. Jejunum is the middle part, and ileum is the posterior or the end part of the small intestine. And the presence of villi or villus increases the surface area for better absorption of food. The small intestine is longer and narrower than the large intestine. Large intestine is wider and shorter than the small intestine. All these things completes the digestive system or the digestive tract of the human body, starting from the mouth, goes from the pharynx into the esophagus and the stomach, small intestine, also the liver and pancreas, then large intestine, and finally through the rectum the feces released goes out or egested from the body through the anus. Now let us recall each and every fact. This is the small diagrammatic representation for the digestive system in humans, or the path of food inside the alimentary canal. The first step for digestion is about the food in the mouth. Next one is the food in the pharynx. And the esophagus or food pipe. Next is the food which goes into the stomach. Then food in the small intestine. Then after this, the food which is absorbed goes into the large intestine. And here the process called assimilation is done, which forms the energy from the food and gets ejaculated or ejected out from the body. In the mouth, the digestion of starch occurs. The starch gets formed into smaller unit called maltose. It's the complex sugar and it's the simple form of sugar by the help of the enzyme called as salivary amylase. And the food is swallowed into the pharynx and then passes through the esophagus. Here you can write through peristalsis. And in the stomach, the food goes and gets acted upon by the gastric juice, which kills the bacteria and helps in the digestion of proteins. Here the gastric juice contains two enzymes, namely the pepsin and renin. These two enzymes help in the digestion of proteins. The pepsin helps in the digestion of proteins and converts the protein into soluble or simple form, that is the proteoses and peptones. And this is done by the enzyme named as pepsin. Second enzyme, that is renin, converts the casein into paracasein, or you can call this renin helps in the conversion of milk, that is lactose sugar, into insoluble कर्ड. दूध से दही को बनाना, दूध में प्रेजेंट शुगर के ऊपर एक्ट करना, ये काम है रेनिन एंजाइम का. And the sugar is lactose, which is also called as casein, case in casein, that converts into insoluble curd or is called as paracasein. In the small intestine, the food which is called as chyme goes, and in this part there are the secretions of liver and the pancreas, that is bile and pancreatic juice. And the pancreatic juice contain enzymes called as trypsin and lipase. Trypsin and lipase act upon the proteins and fats and make them simpler The carbohydrates or the sugar are also digested in the small intestine by the help of enzymes named as maltose, maltase, sucrase, and these enzymes, which are converting the complex sugar into simple one, act upon the food which is passing through the finger like projections called villi. The digestion gets completed in the small intestine itself, and here the part called DJI, duodenum, jejunum, ileum of the small intestine, helps in the completion of digestion. Then the food is going into the large intestine where the absorption of water occurs. By three parts, that is CCR, cecum, colon and rectum. Reabsorption of water gets completed and the energy production by the absorbed food is done, and this is called as assimilation. After all this, the food gets egested out of the body by NS. So that's all for today. We will be taking this chapter only in the next class, and we will be revising each and every point along with the reactions or the chemical equations for the complex food particles getting into simpler one by the action of enzymes. So that's all. See you in the next class. Till then, you just stay fit and God bless. Thank you.